Her designer briefcase rested elegantly on the pristine carpet of the first-class cabin, a silent testament to the countless hours of dedication, the sleepless nights, and the shrewd decisions that had propelled Diona Hart to the pinnacle of corporate success. She settled into the plush, ergonomic seat, the soft leather molding to her form, a faint smile touching her lips as she anticipated the quiet solitude of the transcontinental flight. This was her sanctuary, a brief respite from the relentless demands of building a global empire. She pulled out her tablet, the screen glowing faintly with the latest market reports, preparing to dive into the intricate world of mergers and acquisitions, oblivious to the storm that was about to brew around her. The cabin was nearly empty, a hushed testament to the exclusivity of the section, and she relished the rare opportunity for uninterrupted focus. But before she could even open the first document, a shadow fell across her, interrupting the calm. A flight attendant, her crisp uniform seemingly radiating an air of frosty disapproval, stood over her, a tight, almost condescending smile plastered on her face. Diona looked up, her gaze calm, inquisitive. She had flown this airline countless times, always in first class, always without incident. There was something in the attendant's posture, a subtle stiffness in her shoulders, a slight tilt of her chin, that hinted at an unspoken challenge. "Excuse me, ma'am," the flight attendant began, her voice meticulously polite, yet laced with an undeniable edge. "May I see your boarding pass again, please?" Diona, slightly puzzled but accustomed to the occasional double-check, retrieved her pass from the side pocket of her briefcase. She handed it over, her fingers brushing the attendant's, a brief, cold contact. The attendant, a woman named Beverly, with tightly pulled-back blonde hair and eyes the color of a winter sky, scrutinized the pass with an exaggerated slowness, her brow furrowed as if deciphering ancient hieroglyphs. Diona waited patiently, her expression unreadable. She had faced far more formidable challenges in boardrooms across the globe, where billions of dollars hung in the balance, where reputations were forged or shattered with a single misstep. This, she thought, was merely an inconvenient delay. She glanced around the cabin, noting the curious glances from another flight attendant further down the aisle, a younger man with an overly eager expression, who seemed to be observing the scene with avid interest. After an uncomfortably long pause, Beverly finally looked up, her smile tightening further. "And your identification, please, ma'am?" she requested, her voice maintaining its artificial sweetness, yet the underlying tone was unmistakably firm, bordering on demanding. Diona's patience, usually as vast as the ocean, began to fray at the edges. This was unusual, highly unusual. She had never been asked for ID after boarding, especially not in first class. A subtle unease began to prickle at her. "Is there a problem?" Diona asked, her voice even, devoid of any emotional inflection, a carefully cultivated professional demeanor she had mastered over years of navigating complex negotiations. She handed over her driver's license, her photograph clearly visible, her name, Diona Hart, emblazoned beneath it. Beverly took it, her gaze lingering on the image, then on Diona herself, a silent, assessing stare that felt both invasive and subtly contemptuous. "These seats," Beverly said, her voice dropping slightly, becoming more pointed, "are reserved for executives, ma'am. High-level corporate personnel. It's a very exclusive cabin, as you can imagine." The implication hung in the air, thick and suffocating, a thinly veiled accusation wrapped in a veneer of polite professionalism. The unspoken words were clear. "Do you belong here? Does someone like you belong here?" Diona's eyes, usually warm and observant, hardened imperceptibly. Her spine straightened, an almost imperceptible shift in her posture that nonetheless radiated an unyielding resolve. She met Beverly's gaze head-on, her expression utterly devoid of fear or embarrassment, only a cool, unwavering determination. She understood the undercurrents now, the subtle prejudice that sometimes reared its ugly head even in the most ostensibly professional environments. She had encountered it before, countless times, in hushed tones, in dismissive gestures, in opportunities subtly denied. This time, however, it was overt, brazen, and utterly unacceptable. A quiet fury began to simmer beneath her calm exterior, a slow burn that ignited the fierce, uncompromising spirit that had built her empire. She had overcome far greater obstacles than a prejudiced flight attendant. She had shattered glass ceilings, navigated treacherous corporate landscapes, and built a legacy that spanned continents. She was Diona Hart, CEO of Hart International, a name synonymous with innovation and unparalleled success. And she would not be dismissed, not in her own seat, not on her own flight. She reached for her phone, her movements precise and deliberate. Her gaze never left Beverly's, a silent promise of the impending reckoning. The flight attendant, momentarily taken aback by Diona's unflinching stare and the sudden resolute action, stiffened, her artificial smile faltering. The subtle hum of the aircraft preparing for takeoff filled the cabin, a gentle vibration that belied the gathering storm. Diona's thumb hovered over her contacts list, a single name shining brightly at the top. Mr. Kinsley, chairman of AeroCorp, the parent company of the airline. The clock was ticking, and Diona Hart, in her opulent first-class seat, was about to teach a very important lesson in corporate hierarchy and personal dignity. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. The quiet hum of the aircraft preparing for takeoff was a stark contrast to the rapidly escalating tension in the first-class cabin. Diona Hart's thumb hovered over the contact for Mr. Kinsley, her gaze still locked with Beverly's, whose polite facade was now visibly cracking, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. The younger flight attendant, who had been observing from a distance, now approached, his curiosity morphing into a subtle alarm as he sensed the shift in power dynamics. He was clearly new, perhaps even intimidated by Beverly's seniority, but he possessed a nascent understanding of unspoken social cues. "Is there an issue here, Beverly?" he asked, his voice hesitant, a tentative attempt to intervene. Beverly, flustered by Diona's unwavering stare and the impending phone call, merely waved him off dismissively, her attention still solely focused on Diona, whose composed demeanor felt like a silent challenge. She had underestimated the steel behind Diona's calm. She had assumed, perhaps based on a lifetime of ingrained biases, that a woman of color, even in first class, would be easily intimidated, easily dismissed. She was about to learn a very expensive lesson. Diona's finger finally descended, initiating the call. The phone connected almost instantly, a testament to Mr. Kinsley's efficient administrative staff. "Mr. Kinsley's office, please," Diona said, her voice clear and measured, the quiet authority in her tone resonating through the cabin. Beverly's eyes widened slightly, a faint flicker of apprehension crossing her face. She recognized the name. Everyone in the airline industry recognized the name. Mr. Kinsley was not just the chairman, he was the architect of AeroCorp's global dominance, a man whose word was law. A moment later, a deep, resonant voice, unmistakably Mr. Kinsley's, came through the phone. "Diona, to what do I owe this unexpected pleasure?" His tone was warm, genuinely surprised, a clear indication of their professional rapport and mutual respect. "Good morning, Mr. Kinsley," Diona replied, her voice remaining perfectly composed, yet with a subtle undertone that only someone who knew her well would detect, a controlled tension that hinted at a simmering irritation. "I apologize for calling you so early, but I seem to be experiencing a rather unique situation on one of your flights." She paused, allowing the implication to hang in the air. Beverly's face paled further, the color draining from her cheeks as the gravity of Diona's words began to sink in. The younger flight attendant, sensing the shift in power, discreetly retreated a few steps, a silent acknowledgement of Diona's unexpected leverage. "Unique situation?" Mr. Kinsley repeated, his voice immediately laced with concern, a subtle change in his tone that suggested a keen awareness of Diona's understated communication style. He knew her well enough to understand that unique situation from Diona Hart meant something significant, something potentially problematic. "Are you all right? Where are you?" "I am currently seated in first class on Flight 7047, en route from New York to London," Diona explained, her gaze still fixed on Beverly, who now seemed to be shrinking under the weight of Diona's unwavering stare. "And it appears your staff is having some difficulty verifying my eligibility for this seat." She kept her voice even, professional, but the subtle inflection in her tone conveyed the underlying injustice. "I have been asked for my boarding pass multiple times, and now my identification, with the rather pointed suggestion that these seats are reserved for executives." A sharp intake of breath echoed through the phone line. "What?" Mr. Kinsley's voice, usually calm and measured, was now laced with a rare, controlled fury. "Unacceptable! Who is this? Identify yourself." His voice, though directed at Diona, carried an implicit command for the offending flight attendant. Beverly, hearing the chairman's enraged tone, visibly trembled. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her previous haughtiness had vanished, replaced by a dawning terror. The realization of her monumental error, of having antagonized one of the most powerful figures in the global corporate landscape, hit her with the force of a tidal wave. "Her name is Beverly, Mr. Kinsley," Diona stated, her voice still calm, a quiet hammer blow. "And she seems to be under the impression that my presence here is somehow inappropriate." She chose her words carefully, meticulously, ensuring that every nuance of the situation was conveyed without resorting to outright accusation, allowing Kinsley to draw his own damning conclusions. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening, crackling with unspoken outrage. Then, Mr. Kinsley's voice, now dangerously low, a menacing rumble, filled the cabin. "Beverly!" he snarled, his voice barely above a whisper, yet infused with a chilling power that made the flight attendant recoil. "This is Mr. Kinsley. You are speaking to Diona Hart, CEO of Hart International, a major shareholder in AeroCorp, and indeed, one of our most valued clients. I suggest you reconsider your approach immediately and offer a sincere apology, or you will find yourself no longer employed by this airline or any other airline under the AeroCorp umbrella by the time this flight lands. Is that clear?" Beverly gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her face a ghastly shade of white. Her elaborate coiffure seemed to wilt under the weight of Kinsley's chilling words. The younger flight attendant, standing a safe distance away, looked as though he wanted to disappear through the cabin floor. "And Diona," Mr. Kinsley continued, his voice softening slightly as he addressed her directly, "I am truly appalled by this. Please accept my deepest apologies. This kind of discriminatory behavior is absolutely unacceptable and will be dealt with immediately and severely. I promise you." Heads will roll. "Is there anything else I can do for you?" Diona's gaze, now filled with a quiet satisfaction, remained fixed on Beverly, who stood frozen in a tableau of utter humiliation. "Actually, Mr. Kinsley, there is one more thing," Diona said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, though loud enough for Beverly to hear. "I've been thinking about expanding Hart International's portfolio, and AeroCorp, as you know, has always been an attractive acquisition target. Perhaps this incident is a sign. Perhaps it's time for a change in ownership, a complete change. I believe I'd like to make an offer." A moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then, Mr. Kinsley's voice, surprisingly devoid of shock, merely tinged with a grim understanding, responded, "Diona, You never cease to surprise me. Are you serious? Completely, Diona affirmed, her voice resonating with an unshakable conviction. Consider this my formal intent to acquire AeroCorp, effective immediately. I'll have my legal team draw up the papers. In the meantime, I'd appreciate it if you could ensure this Flight 747, is rerouted and grounded immediately. I believe a complete staff change is in order. Beverly's eyes, wide with horror, seemed to bulge from their sockets. Her jaw dropped, a silent scream escaping her lips. The younger flight attendant, who had been leaning forward subtly to catch the hushed conversation, stumbled backward, his hand flying to his mouth, his face a picture of stunned disbelief. The other few first-class passengers, who had been discreetly pretending not to listen, now openly stared, their expressions a mixture of shock and morbid fascination. Mr. Kinsley, after a brief, almost imperceptible pause, let out a deep sigh. "Very well, Diona. You drive a hard bargain, as always. But I understand, and frankly, after this, I don't blame you. Consider it done. The flight will be rerouted, and the staff grounded, immediately. I'll contact the pilot myself, and my team will be in touch about the acquisition." His voice, though resigned, held a faint undercurrent of respect, perhaps even admiration for Diona's audacious move. Diona ended the call, her phone clicking softly as she placed it back on the side table. She looked at Beverly, who stood trembling, her face utterly devoid of color, her eyes filled with a dawning horror that reflected the crumbling of her entire professional world. "I believe you owe me an apology," Diona stated, her voice calm, utterly devoid of triumph, merely a quiet assertion of undeniable power. "And perhaps," she added, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching her lips, "you might want to start looking for a new line of work, effective immediately." "Mid-flight," the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, usually calm and reassuring, now tinged with a distinct tremor of bewilderment. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have received urgent instructions from corporate. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Flight 747 is being rerouted. Our landing rights have been revoked. The aircraft is now under new ownership. I repeat, the aircraft is now owned by Hart International." A stunned silence descended upon the entire plane, then a ripple of bewildered murmurs. Diona Hart leaned back in her seat, a profound sense of satisfaction settling over her. She had endured countless microaggressions, dismissed snide remarks, and ignored subtle slights throughout her career. But this time, on her own terms, she had turned the tables. She had not only proven she belonged in first class, she had bought the entire plane. And the staff, well, they were definitely grounded. Diona stayed in her seat, her tablet open, the market reports now forgotten. Her attention was solely focused on the gentle hum of the aircraft, a new acquisition, a silent testament to her unwavering power and unyielding determination. The sky was no longer a limit. It was merely another domain for Hart International to conquer. The announcement hung in the air, a surreal declaration that echoed through the shocked silence of the aircraft. The aircraft is now owned by Hart International. The words were repeated, as if for emphasis, by the stunned captain, his voice tinged with an almost comical disbelief. Diona Hart, meanwhile, sat serenely in her first-class seat, the picture of calm, her gaze fixed on the bewildered face of Beverly, who seemed to have petrified into a grotesque statue of disbelief. The subtle tremor of the plane as it began its rerouting maneuver was the only indication that the world outside this cabin was shifting, irrevocably, because of a quiet phone call. The first-class passengers, who had previously been discreetly observing the unfolding drama, now openly gawked, their whispers erupting into a cacophony of speculation. Hart International? Isn't that? The tech giant? The one that just acquired Nexus Global last month? The murmurs escalated, morphing from confusion to grudging respect, then to outright awe. They recognized the name now, the sheer audacity of the move, the audacious power displayed by the woman sitting calmly among them. Some pulled out their own phones, discreetly attempting to verify the unbelievable news, their fingers flying across screens. Beverly, however, remained rooted to the spot, her face still a ghastly white, her jaw slack. The younger flight attendant, sensing a seismic shift in the professional landscape, edged cautiously towards Diona, his face a mixture of fear and an almost deferential awe. He knew his career hung by a thread, and he wanted to be on the right side of this unprecedented corporate upheaval. Diona, noting his approach, offered him a faint, almost imperceptible nod. "Could you please inform the captain that I will require a direct line of communication to the cockpit upon landing?" she requested, her voice still calm, but now with an undeniable edge of proprietorship. "And I'd appreciate it if all necessary arrangements are made for a swift and discreet disembarkation upon arrival at our new destination." The young man, momentarily flustered, stammered, Yes, ma'am," and practically sprinted towards the galley, eager to escape the tense atmosphere and perhaps to deliver the unprecedented message. Beverly, finally breaking free from her catatonic state, took a tentative step forward. Her eyes, filled with a desperate, pleading terror, met Diona's. "Ma'am, please," she began, her voice a reedy whisper, utterly devoid of its earlier sneering politeness. I didn't mean I misunderstood. Please, I have bills, my family." Her words trailed off, a pathetic plea hanging in the air, a stark contrast to her previous arrogance. Diona merely raised an eyebrow, a silent, eloquent dismissal. "Your assumptions, Beverly, led to your current predicament," Diona stated, her voice cool and unwavering. "My actions are a consequence of yours. Every decision has repercussions. You chose to judge me based on superficialities, to question my right to occupy a space I rightfully earned, and now you face the consequences." There was no malice in her voice, no overt triumph, just a cold, unyielding statement of fact. She was a CEO, accustomed to dealing with underperforming assets and costly mistakes. Beverly, in this moment, was simply an unfortunate example of the latter. The remainder of the flight was an almost comical display of frantic activity from the flight crew, mixed with stunned silence from the passengers. The flight attendants, realizing the enormity of the situation and the likely repercussions, scrambled to cater to Diona's every unspoken need, their movements jerky, their faces etched with a palpable anxiety. They offered her fresh towels, a selection of gourmet snacks she politely declined, and repeatedly asked if she required anything, their voices laced with an almost desperate deference. Diona accepted their service with a quiet dignity, neither reveling in their sudden servitude nor acknowledging their distress. She merely observed, a silent, powerful force in the eye of a self-made storm. Her thoughts drifted to the future, to the implications of this impromptu acquisition. AeroCorp was a colossal entity, a behemoth in the aviation industry. Integrating it into Hart International, a predominantly tech and renewable energy conglomerate, would be a complex, multifaceted challenge. It would require restructuring, strategic appointments, and a complete overhaul of corporate culture. But the potential, the sheer scope of opportunity, was immense. Hart International could revolutionize air travel, implement sustainable practices, and leverage AeroCorp's global network for its own ambitious projects. The germ of an idea, sparked by a prejudiced flight attendant, had now blossomed into a multi-billion-dollar strategic play. Hours later, the aircraft began its descent, the landscape below gradually resolving into the familiar sprawl of a major international airport, though not the expected London Heathrow. The captain's voice, still slightly trembling, announced their unexpected arrival at a private terminal outside of Paris, an airport designated for corporate and private jets. This was the rapid consequence of Mr. Kinsley's direct intervention, a testament to the lightning speed at which corporate power could reshape reality. As the plane touched down with a gentle bump, Diona felt a profound sense of closure. The hunt was over, the battle won. The aircraft taxied towards a secluded section of the tarmac, where a sleek, black limousine, an unmistakable symbol of high-powered corporate arrivals, awaited. Beside it stood a small, discreet group of individuals, their postures rigid with professionalism, clearly anticipating her arrival. The cabin door opened with a soft hiss, and a ramp extended to the tarmac. The young flight attendant, now visibly shaking, stood at the entrance. "Ma'am," he stammered, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and genuine remorse. "On behalf of the crew, I truly apologize for any discomfort or offense caused, and congratulations on your new acquisition." He managed a weak, almost hopeful smile, a desperate attempt to salvage some shred of his career. Diona paused, her hand on the railing. She looked at him, truly looked at him, seeing the genuine fear in his eyes, the dawning understanding that his career was indeed hanging in the balance, a casualty of someone else's prejudice. She softened, just slightly. "Your concern is noted," she said, her voice softer than it had been, "and appreciated. Learn from this. Every individual deserves respect, regardless of their perceived status. Remember that." Her words were a quiet yet powerful lesson, a seed of wisdom offered amidst the chaos of corporate upheaval. She then stepped onto the tarmac, the cool, crisp air of Paris, a welcome sensation after the confined space of the cabin. The group of corporate executives waiting bowed their heads slightly in deference, their faces a mask of professional anticipation. Among them, her own chief legal officer, Ms. Evelyn Reed, a woman known for her razor-sharp intellect and unwavering loyalty, stepped forward, a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips. She had undoubtedly received the urgent, unbelievable news from Mr. Kinsley, and was already mobilizing Hart International's formidable legal and financial machinery. Diona turned back to the plane, her gaze sweeping over the first-class cabin, where Beverly stood frozen, her face still a mask of horror. The other flight attendants huddled together, their expressions a mixture of fear and resignation. The first-class passengers stared out, their faces pressed against the windows, witnessing the extraordinary conclusion to an unbelievable flight. Diona raised her hand, a single, elegant gesture that encompassed the entire aircraft. "This plane," she stated, her voice carrying through the open door, resonating with a quiet, undeniable power, "is now mine, and by extension, so is AeroCorp. Consider this a direct message to every single employee, from the tarmac to the boardroom. Excellence and respect will be the cornerstones of the new AeroCorp. Anyhow, deviation will not be tolerated." Her words, delivered with calm authority, were a clear declaration of intent, a new era for the beleaguered airline. She then turned, her stride purposeful, and walked towards the waiting limousine, Evelyn Reed falling into step beside her, already discussing the intricate details of the acquisition. As the limousine door closed, silencing the murmurs and whispers, Diona Hart leaned back against the plush leather, a faint, contented sigh escaping her lips. The journey was far from over, but the initial audacious step had been taken. She had not merely bought the plane, she had reshaped an entire corporate landscape, all because a black CEO was asked to prove she belonged in first class. The sky was now truly her domain, and the possibilities for Hart International, limitless. The acquisition of AeroCorp by Hart International sent shockwaves through the global corporate landscape. News outlets scrambled to cover the unprecedented takeover, their headlines screaming of the audacious move orchestrated by Diona Hart. Financial analysts debated the strategic implications, while industry veterans whispered of Diona's ruthless efficiency and unparalleled vision. The story of the mid-flight acquisition, initially a rumor, quickly solidified into fact, transforming Diona Hart into an almost mythical figure, a titan of industry who had literally bought a company out of spite and conviction. Diona, however, remained unfazed by the media frenzy. She had built her empire on calculated risks and unwavering focus, not on public adulation. Her immediate priority was the seamless integration of AeroCorp into the Hart International portfolio. Evelyn Reed, her chief legal officer, spearheaded the legal and financial aspects of the takeover, working around the clock with a team of relentless lawyers and financial strategists. The sheer complexity of acquiring a global airline with its intricate network of routes, diverse workforce, and complex regulatory frameworks was immense. Yet, Evelyn, fueled by Diona's decisive leadership, navigated the labyrinthine processes with remarkable speed and precision. Diona's focus, however, was on the cultural and operational overhaul. She knew that a company's true value lay not just in its assets, but in its people and its values. The incident with Beverly had exposed a deeply ingrained bias, a subtle current of prejudice that needed to be eradicated. Her goal was not simply to own AeroCorp, but to transform it into a beacon of excellence and inclusivity. Her first major move was a virtual address to all AeroCorp employees worldwide. Diona stood before a vast screen, her image projected into every office, every hangar, every flight deck. Her voice, calm and authoritative, resonated with a quiet power that commanded attention. She acknowledged the uncertainty, the whispers, the profound changes that were underway. She spoke of her vision for the new AeroCorp, a vision of innovation, sustainability, and unparalleled customer service. But she also addressed, directly and unequivocally, the incident that had sparked the acquisition. The core of this acquisition, Diona stated, her gaze unwavering, stems from an experience I had as a passenger on one of your flights, an experience that highlighted a fundamental disconnect between the values we espouse and the reality some of our employees project. Let me be clear. Hart International operates on principles of respect, equality, and meritocracy. Every single individual, regardless of their background, their appearance, or their perceived status, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Any deviation from these core values will not be tolerated. Going forward, there will be a zero-tolerance policy for any form of discrimination, overt or subtle. This is not merely a policy. It is the bedrock of our corporate culture. Those who cannot align with these values will find no place in the new AeroCorp. Her words, delivered with a quiet but unyielding conviction, landed with the force of a thunderclap. Many employees, particularly those who had experienced or witnessed subtle forms of prejudice, felt a surge of hope, a sense of vindication. Others, who had perhaps indulged in or overlooked such behaviors, felt a cold dread. The message was clear. The old ways were gone, and a new era of accountability had begun. Beverly and the flight crew from Flight 747 were, as promised, immediately grounded and subjected to a thorough internal investigation. Diona insisted on a fair process, but also on swift and decisive action. Beverly, unable to deny her actions in the face of compelling testimony from other witnesses and the undeniable record of Diona's phone call to Mr. Kinsley, was ultimately dismissed. The younger flight attendant, however, having shown remorse and professionalism in the aftermath of the incident, was retained, albeit with a probationary period and mandatory diversity training. Diona believed in second chances, but only when accompanied by genuine reflection and a demonstrated commitment to change. Diona spent weeks immersed in AeroCorp's operations, her sharp intellect quickly grasping the intricacies of the airline industry. She met with department heads, engineers, pilots, and ground staff, listening intently to their concerns, their suggestions, their insights. She implemented immediate changes, streamlining inefficient processes, investing in cutting-edge aviation technology, and launching ambitious initiatives to develop more sustainable fuel sources. She envisioned an AeroCorp that was not just a means of transportation, but a global leader in environmentally conscious travel. One afternoon, during a comprehensive review of AeroCorp's global routes, Diona found herself sitting with a team of seasoned aviation strategists. The discussion revolved around optimizing flight paths, maximizing fuel efficiency, and identifying new, underserved markets. Diona, with her unique perspective as a frequent flyer and a shrewd businesswoman, offered insights that often surprised the veteran team, her questions cutting to the core of long-held assumptions. What about a direct route to the emerging markets in Southeast Asia? Diona mused, pointing to a specific region on the holographic map. There's immense potential for both business and leisure travel, and currently, there's a significant layover for most routes. One of the senior strategists, a man named Mr. Harrington, a seasoned veteran of the airline industry, adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Hart," he began, his tone respectful. "We've explored that. The logistics are complex, landing rights, political considerations, and frankly, the current infrastructure in some of those regions isn't quite up to our standards for large commercial aircraft." His voice, though polite, carried a subtle note of dismissal, a familiar echo of, "We've always done it this way." Diona leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a familiar spark of determination. "Standards can be raised, Mr. Harrington. Infrastructure can be built, and political considerations can be navigated with the right approach. Hart International has extensive experience in developing infrastructure in emerging markets, particularly in renewable energy. We've built solar farms in remote villages, wind turbines on uninhabited islands. We have the expertise, and frankly, the capital, to make those complex logistics disappear." Mr. Harrington blinked, clearly taken aback by her swift and decisive counter-argument. He had expected a conventional CEO, one who would defer to his long-standing experience. He was quickly realizing Diona Hart was anything but conventional. "Consider this," Diona continued, her voice gaining momentum. "Not just an expansion of routes, but an opportunity to invest in sustainable development in those regions. We can partner with local governments, provide jobs, and foster economic growth, all while establishing new, profitable air travel corridors. It's a win-win." She then outlined a detailed preliminary plan, drawing upon her vast knowledge of international development and her network of global contacts. Mr. Harrington, initially skeptical, found himself slowly nodding, a genuine admiration dawning in his eyes. He saw not just a CEO, but a visionary, a strategic thinker who could see beyond the immediate challenges to the vast opportunities. That's an ambitious vision, Ms. Hart," he admitted, a newfound respect in his voice. "But entirely feasible, given Hart International's resources. We'll start drawing up feasibility studies immediately." Diona smiled, a rare, genuine smile that lit up her features. "Excellent, Mr. Harrington. That's the kind of thinking I expect from the new AeroCorp. We're not just flying planes, we're building bridges." In the weeks and months that followed, Diona's transformation of AeroCorp continued at a blistering pace. She appointed a diverse new leadership team, bringing in fresh perspectives and challenging long-held assumptions. She launched a massive employee retraining program, focusing not just on technical skills, but on fostering a culture of empathy, respect, and proactive problem-solving. She personally oversaw the design of new cabin interiors, prioritizing comfort and accessibility for all passengers, not just those in first class. The most significant undertaking, however, was the establishment of the Hart International Aviation Institute, a state-of-the-art training facility dedicated to nurturing the next generation of aviation professionals, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status. It was a tangible manifestation of her commitment to inclusivity, a direct response to the prejudice she had faced. She envisioned a future where talent, not privilege, determined access to opportunities in the aviation industry. The transformation was not without its challenges. Some long-serving executives resisted the changes, clinging to outdated practices and ingrained biases. Diona dealt with them swiftly and decisively, replacing them with individuals who aligned with her vision. There were moments of intense pressure, of relentless negotiations, of exhausting strategizing sessions. But Diona, fueled by her unwavering conviction and the memory of that fateful flight, pushed through, never compromising on her principles. One quiet evening, as Diona sat in her office, overlooking the illuminated skyline of the city, Evelyn Red entered, a stack of freshly signed documents in her hand. "It's done, Diona," Evelyn announced, a tired but triumphant smile on her face. The final regulatory hurdles cleared. AeroCorp is officially fully integrated into Hart International, and the first new, sustainably powered aircraft for AeroCorp, designed entirely in-house, just received its final certification. Diona looked up, a profound sense of accomplishment settling over her. She leaned back in her chair, a faint smile touching her lips. "Excellent, Evelyn. It's been a long journey, and it all started with a simple question. A very expensive question, as it turns out," Evelyn chuckled, shaking her head in amused wonder. "You didn't just prove you belonged in first class, Diona. You redefined what first class means for everyone. You bought the plane, and then you rebuilt it, brick by brick, from the ground up." Diona nodded, her gaze sweeping over the cityscape, the twinkling lights below, a symbol of the vast, intricate world she had reshaped. She thought of Beverly, the flight attendant whose prejudice had ignited this seismic shift. She wondered where she was now, if she had learned her lesson. But the thought was fleeting. Her focus was on the future, on the boundless possibilities that now lay before Hart International and the newly transformed AeroCorp. The skies, once a realm of subtle slights, were now a boundless canvas for her vision, a testament to the unwavering power of a black CEO who had dared to dream bigger and who had truly bought the plane. The newly christened AeroCorp by Hart International swiftly became a case study in corporate transformation. Diona Hart's relentless drive and unwavering vision reshaped every facet of the airline, from its operational logistics to its customer-facing interactions. Her executive team, a diverse group of industry veterans and disruptive innovators, embraced her philosophy of excellence and respect with an almost zealous dedication. The cultural shift was palpable. Employees, once wary, now moved with a renewed sense of purpose, energized by a leadership that truly valued their contributions and prioritized a just and equitable work environment. One of Diona's most ambitious projects was the complete overhaul of the in-flight experience, starting with the very design of the aircraft. She commissioned a team of engineers and designers to reimagine cabin interiors, moving beyond the traditional notions of luxury for the elite. Her vision encompassed universal accessibility, ensuring that every passenger, regardless of physical ability, could enjoy a seamless and comfortable journey. This meant wider aisles, innovative seating designs that offered enhanced personal space even in economy, and intuitive digital interfaces for entertainment and service requests. The first prototype, a sleek, newly branded AeroCorp jet, was unveiled to much fanfare, its interior bathed in soft, natural light, its seats upholstered in sustainable, recycled materials. The industry watched, captivated, as Diona Hart redefined what air travel could be. Her commitment to sustainability was equally revolutionary. Diona pushed AeroCorp to invest heavily in biofuels and electric propulsion research, establishing state-of-the-art labs and forging partnerships with leading environmental scientists. She set aggressive targets for reducing carbon emissions, aiming to make AeroCorp the first major airline to achieve net zero emissions within a decade. This wasn't merely a marketing ploy, it was a deeply ingrained principle, a reflection of Diona's belief in corporate responsibility. The older, less efficient aircraft in the fleet were systematically retired or retrofitted with advanced, fuel-saving technologies. The transformation was expensive, a colossal undertaking, but Diona saw it as an investment in the future of the planet and a defining characteristic of the new AeroCorp. The Hart International Aviation Institute, launched just months after the acquisition, quickly became a global benchmark for aviation training. Its curriculum emphasized not only technical proficiency, but also cultural sensitivity, ethical leadership, and problem-solving skills. Scholarships were generously provided to talented individuals from underserved communities, ensuring that the next generation of pilots, engineers, and flight crew reflected the rich diversity of the world they served. Diona often made surprise visits to the institute, observing training sessions, speaking with students, and emphasizing the importance of their role in shaping the future of aviation. She believed that true change started at the foundational level, by nurturing talent and fostering a sense of belonging from the very beginning. Despite the monumental success, Diona never forgot the incident that had set this extraordinary chain of events in motion. She received occasional, unsolicited updates on Beverly's post-AeroCorp life. Beverly, after numerous failed attempts to secure employment in the hospitality industry, had reportedly taken a job in a completely different sector, far removed from any customer-facing role. Diona felt no triumph, only a quiet understanding of the ripple effect of every action, every choice. The younger flight attendant, however, had thrived under the new regime. He had fully embraced the diversity and inclusion training, rising through the ranks to become a respected lead flight attendant, his initial deference replaced by a genuine admiration for Diona's leadership. He was a testament to the power of a second chance, when coupled with a genuine desire for growth. One particular afternoon, while reviewing a quarterly report that showed unprecedented growth in passenger numbers and a significant leap in customer satisfaction ratings, Diona received a call from Mr. Kinsley. His voice, though still respectful, now carried a distinct note of admiration, devoid of the previous resignation. "Diona," he began, "I just wanted to call and personally congratulate you. What you've done with AeroCorp is nothing short of miraculous. You've not only revived a struggling enterprise, you've redefined an entire industry. Your vision, your audacity, has truly paid off." Diona chuckled softly. "It was quite the unexpected opportunity, Mr. Kinsley, and a very expensive lesson for some." "Indeed," he responded, a dry chuckle in his voice. "Though I must admit, I never anticipated quite this level of transformation. You didn't just buy the plane, Diona. You launched a whole new fleet with a whole new mission. It's truly inspiring." "Thank you, Mr. Kinsley," Diona replied, a genuine warmth in her voice. "It's a testament to the fact that when you invest in people and when you operate with integrity, anything is possible, even flying beyond the clouds of prejudice." As she hung up the phone, Diona looked out her office window at the vast city sprawling beneath her. The sky, once merely a path for aircraft, now felt boundless, limitless. The planes, sleek and silver, soared through the air, carrying millions of passengers across continents, connecting diverse cultures, and embodying the new spirit of AeroCorp by Hart International. She had challenged a system, broken down barriers, and built an empire that stood for something more than just profit. She had bought a plane, yes, but more importantly, she had bought a future, one where everyone belonged, and where the sky was truly open to all. The journey, she knew, was far from over, but the foundations had been laid, solid and unyielding, for a legacy that would soar for generations to come.